So hi folks, hello once again, and you're very welcome along to this week's edition of Down Your Way. I'm here with the Killock Community Association here in Killock this week for this week's edition of the show. Liam O'Dwyer is with me. Liam, Killock, where is it?
Well, Killock, you couldn't miss it really. The ancient name of Killock Hill was Slieve Mossa. It sits in the plain, in the middle of the old plain, what is known as Ma Mossa, which is basically the flat land between the Devil's Bit and the town of Cashel. That's Ma Mossa. And the hill in the middle of that plain was Slieve Mossa, and that's the hill we now call Killock Hill. Originally, before they started digging at it, the hill, it went to a height of 773 feet, but I'd say it's gone down a good bit since then. Now, my main interest is that there's a bit of history attached to Killock and the area. Killock would have been a part of the old village of Gale, the old parish of Gale, and the old village of Gale is traditionally believed to have been on the slopes of the hill to the east of the old Gale church, which is up at the top of Kiran Hill. You'd see it on your way up to the quarry nowadays. And then there's, of course, Killock Castle, which dates back to 1415. By 1571, it was in the possession of the notorious Myler McGrath, who served as Anglican Archbishop of Cashel up to 1622. He was variously known as the Scoundrel of Cashel and the Sanctimonious Bluffer. He was originally...
What did he do wrong?
I'll tell you now. He was originally ordained a Catholic priest and rose to the position of Bishop of Down and Corner. Then he converted to Anglicanism, became Protestant Archbishop of Cashel, married a Catholic woman, and reared all their children in the Catholic faith. So that might explain some of his controversial...
Wasn't he very controversial, wasn't he?
He was the right devil. He lived to be 100, and he seemed to be able to turn everybody around his little fingers. No, he survived all sorts of scandals and, rira and rulabula.
Would he work today? Would he survive today?
He might if he was maybe if he was in the airline business or something, I don't know. But anyway, in 1599, his lands at Killock, where he sometimes resided, was raided by Derby O'Dwyer, chief of the O'Dwyers, and they were in an ongoing feud with Myler. Derby O'Dwyer took away all his cattle as part of the feud, but oddly enough, Derby's nephew, Philip, later married Myler's daughter. Myler's sons in time became major landowners through the efforts of their ingenious father, and you can take from that whatever you like. Yeah, he was notorious for playing both sides of most of the arguments he was involved in, and a treacherous man.
You say he was in the castle. How many acres were in that castle?
I don't really know now, but he had land all over the country, and he wouldn't have lived in the castle very often. He'd been coming and going there, in Killock Castle. But the reason he was there was because of his position as Archbishop of Cashel. And Killock was still in the possession of the Archbishop of Cashel up until 1711. And then in 1732, the Max family were the owners. And since then, the castle has been occupied by the Batty, the Plunkett, the Bowes-Daly and the O'Mara families. The O'Maras were into it up to the present day. Now, up to 1600, the area all around Killock Hill was still heavily wooded, like the rest of Ireland. But by 1700, the forests were almost gone as a result of shipbuilding and other enterprises. But Irish was still the majority language of the ordinary people. By 1826, Trinity College Dublin was the absentee landlord of Killock. In 1837, Samuel Lewis, a map maker, described the parish of Gale as all arable and pasture, with the exception of about 30 acres of rock on Killock Hill. And of course that's where the quarry is now. I'm sure the 30 acres of rock is long gone. The Killock Hill then, he said, was surrounded by a flat country, and the hill was a very conspicuous object. The 1841 population of Gale civil parish was 646. Then 10 years later, after the famine, the population had fallen to 438. And this is interesting. Of those 438, 36% could read and write, 22% could write only, and 40% could do neither. The population continued to fall, and by 1911, the population was only 209. And of course, before.
Most interesting in the sense that so many people weren't able to read or write.
Well, we're talking about, shortly after the famine, you know. Well, that would have been quite common throughout the country at that time, you know. It would have been. I mean, up to living memory, there would have been older people who would have come to the local teacher to get a letter written or something like that. Okay. I can remember it happening with my father years ago, you know. Some of the older people would come along and I might get him to fill in the form. But I mean, the literacy we take for granted nowadays was not as common then as we might think. Okay. And anyway, before Killock Quarry was opened, the hill was covered in hazel bushes, which attracted nut gatherers every autumn from miles around. And I'm sure you've heard about what happened then when the quarry came and was bought by the sugar company.
Yeah, and all of that, yeah. So Liam, good story and great research done into this.
Well, I must
Of course you only grew up only a few hundred yards.
I did, sure. I mean, we grew up beside Gale School, and when we were going to school in Gale, we'd often hear the explosions from the quarry. They were much more frequent back then. They were probably smaller explosions, but you would actually feel the windows in the school vibrate a little bit, you know. And if we were out for playtime, we'd be delighted to see an explosion because there'd be a big cloud of smoke going up, you know.
Would people have to keep away when all that was going on, you know, keep indoors?
Well, they had a hooter. We'd always know when an explosion was going to come, because the hooter would go off, and the men working on the hill used to they had a little hut they used to go and shelter in while the explosion took place. But I think the odd time a stray bit of rock went a bit further from the hill than it should have. I've heard stories of that, but I never saw it to happen anyway.
I didn't vibrate the windows in the school and give you a couple of days off.
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah. So growing up around Killock was a nice place.
Yeah, I remember going up a few times as a kid up to collect nuts. Back then there was still some of the areas where the hazelnuts were growing, and it was a great place for that. And it was also fascinating for a young fella because it was full of these old fossils you'd see on the ground, like pieces of stone but with snail shells and mollusk shapes inside them, you know. Obviously, way back, Killock Hill would have been under the sea, or the rock was anyway, you know.
Okay, so a nice story. I know there's lots of other stories. I know that we're going to be doing a programme with you in the new year, the story of Bainkenney.
We look forward to that.
Yeah.
We've had great work done in Bainkenney. We're working away. We've basically got the roof has been renovated. There was a bad leak in it, and we've had to replace a lot of the timbers, and practically all the leading around the towers had to be redone, and quite a lot of new slates have had to be fixed. So we're working away on it, and we'll be looking for more money for next year and to continue the work. We've been at it since last year.
How difficult is it to get the money from whatever government departments?
Well, we got 25,000 last year from the Heritage Council, and we were fortunate enough to get the same amount this year. But we've been told that we're damn lucky to get it 2 years, so we might be pushing our luck even to look for the third time. But we'll keep our hopes up and our fingers crossed.
Eamon, Dywer, it's a real pleasure having you on Down Your Way. We're going to take another break.
Thank you, Eamon.
We're back just after these. Indeed, you're very welcome back to Down Your Way. We're here in Killock Community Association this week. Anne-Marie Carroll is with us. How are you doing, Anne-Marie?
I'm fine, thanks, Eamon.
Good to be on the programme. Principal course of Powelldown National School. Indeed, we had a lovely visit to Powelldown last year to the school at Christmas, a Christmas show.
That's right, and it was a very popular show. There was brilliant feedback from our parents and others in the community. who heard it, and the children were very excited when they came back to school after Christmas, even to tell us that they heard themselves on Christmas Day as well, that the show was aired that day. So it was great to have had you there from Tip FM and other members of our community as well, and it just got to showcase the talent we have.
Absolutely. And I suppose the other side of it is, this year we're going to Skullcormick National School, or the unitary course in Cashel, and it's going to be very special again.
That's right, and Christmas is such a lovely time with children, and with children with special needs, Christmas is so special.
Tell me about Pouldown north, about only 7 or 8 kilometres from Killock.
That's right. I suppose where we're situated, we're in the middle of everything really. We're so near the motorway, we're near Thurles, we're situated at crossroads, but we can see Killock clearly from the school and my Carkey Castle. Killock, we've been very lucky. In the past, some of our classes have gone up there with Jimmy Duggan to visit the woodlands and climb the hill. And Jimmy is just fantastic. He brings nature to life so much that the children learn so much from him. And there's nothing like being out in nature. It doesn't compare to teaching it from the book.
Yeah, of course. Would you bring just 5th and 6th class?
It's been 5th and 6th class. In the past, it's been 5th and 6th. But then we have a number of our families who would be very local and living around Killock, and we'd have some children even that their parents would have land on the hill, as they'd say, and those children would be coming in, maybe bringing us in bluebells when it's the time of year when the bluebells are out in Killock, and that it's supposed to be amazing when the bluebells are there.
Terrific. It goes back to Pouldown again. There was a great band hall very close to Pouldown School. That's
right, and it was Ger Neville who actually told us a lot about that in the school, that we weren't aware of it, that's where the Sean Tracy Pipe Band started out first many moons ago. So it's lovely to have that little bit of history attached to our area as well.
How many pupils do you have in school?
We've 137 pupils in school at the moment.
And of course you have Tumilboris as well.
Tumilboris and Littleton and Gale School. So yeah, we've 4 great schools in the parish.
Really. So your school is very environmental, I'm sure.
Yes, we would have a great awareness of nature. The children would be very aware, some of the teachers would be a great interest in nature, especially in certain types of birds. So now when they go out for walks in the morning with their class teacher, they'd even comment and tell the teacher, very excited, they're only senior infants in first class, they're able to identify the birds. So, and then we have a school garden as well, and we also have an outdoor classroom. Okay. So we'd be very aware of nature.
So tell me about the school garden.
The school garden, we usually sow vegetables in it. We might have lettuce, scallions. Then our caretaker, Donny Shannon, is brilliant. He would help out in the garden as well. They'd like to go out and take care of them, do the weeding and that under Donny's guidance. And then before we have our summer holidays, when all the salad leaves are ready, we usually have a picnic for the children. So they have sandwiches made with their lettuce, scallions,
and
all of that, yeah. And they love it. And it surprises parents because they mightn't actually eat that at home for them, but in school they will. And then we also have 2 hens. So
you mentioned there Donny Shannon, because he's an exceptional talent, isn't he?
Donny is just, he's amazing. We're so lucky to have him in our school as caretaker. He's so talented, and just send Donny a text or a message during the day that there's a toilet leaking, and he's over straight away, and he's a brilliant craftsman as well.
All of that, yeah. But it's a great thing to have in the school, let the children see how plants grow and how seeds grow.
Yeah, it is. And then even before Halloween, we had a family who very kindly donated pumpkins to the school, that they grow them themselves, and they sent in pumpkins. So it was great to see, for the children to see that while we don't just go into the local supermarket and buy our pumpkins, that we can actually grow them.
So I'm sure when the kids go on a visit to Killock and a walk around, they come back with lots of stories, do they?
Lots of stories about I can't even remember now, but wild boars and back over the stories that they would have heard on their adventures, and even things that they would see up there, and they just get so creative in their minds, run amok really, that with the stories and the imagination and things that might happen up there, asking were there ever robbers hiding out there. Yeah, it's great.
It's some location for all that stuff, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. We'd often be thinking, gosh, if we went up there and got lost, you could be there for a long time. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful place in nature, beautiful amenity. So it'd be such a pity.
Isn't it just lovely to be kind of set? Basically, you're set in the middle of it all, aren't you? Just in Powdown.
Yeah, we are, and we're just so lucky because when we look out any of our classroom windows or at break times, we can see Killock so clearly, and then of course Moycarkey Castle. So it's a beautiful location, and we have so much space around for the children.
Yeah, Anne-Marie, it's a real pleasure having you on down your way. Good luck to the school and to the whole environment that you very much belong to.
All right, thanks very much, Eamon. Thank you.
Sean Ryan's with me, Councillor Sean Ryan. You're very welcome, Sean, to Down Your Way.
Thanks very much, Eamon. Delighted to be here this evening.
Absolutely. Killock, of course, is just up the road from where you live for the most part, down in Littleton, and we were just talking to Anne-Marie there about Pauldine and the school. But you have another story.
Yeah, I suppose it's a huge parish, Moycarkey Burris, Littleton. It stretches, you're quite right, from Killock there, which borders with Borlahan, right over to Malburris, which borders with Gurtnahoe. So it's a huge parish, and you're involved in all facets of the parish when you're local councillor. And one of the projects I was involved in over here in Killock with James Flanagan from the Killock Development Association is the grotto, which I suppose has stood here since 1954. It was developed during the Marion year by the workers of Killock Quarry, which was part of the Irish Sugar Company group, and they put that there for the Marion year, developed a beautiful grotto. And I suppose over the years, locals had done some work on it, but it had become, I suppose, a little bit old. It needed repair. And James approached me, I'd say, the end of 2021, early 2022, to see if we could get something done. It was just after Ireland came out of COVID. And I suppose if you take on a project of that level, if you take on a grotto that's such a feature in the landscape here, you have to make sure you retain its integrity. And that was one of the things that we did as a committee here. We made sure that whatever works we did, that the integrity of it was maintained. So what we did was, from the very start, we engaged a local craftsman here, a local stonemason who does work all over Ireland, and that's Damien Condon. He does huge work on restoration of projects like that all over the country, and we're delighted Damien came on board, and he told us exactly what we needed to do. And I suppose when you look at that and you look at the scale of what had to be done, the second thing you have to do is you have to look at funding streams. And we had to look at a number of funding streams. So I suppose the Community Enhancement Fund, we got some money from that. We also got money from the SICAP, which is the Social Inclusion and Activation Fund. And we also set up a GoFundMe page, which is, I suppose, it was kind of a new enough concept at the time, but we set up a GoFundMe page to see if we could get some funding as well. And Eamon, like any project, that undergoes such development, the generosity of the community was just absolutely phenomenal. They really engaged with the project, and they really bought into it because they wanted to see the grotto lit up again. They wanted to see a feature which I suppose had become an intrinsic part of the landscape back and up and running again. And that's why it happened. People put in huge work, be it electrical work, getting the lights working, be it the stone work, be it the tarmac, all of which was just donated. And then obviously we had to pay for certain facets as well. But the work that was done was just phenomenal, and it stands as a huge testament to the people in this area.
Tell us about the grotto itself. Do people come and pray there?
They do, and they have the rosary there, particularly during the month of November and during the month of May as well. And, people just come there maybe to reflect because, a lot of people that have worked maybe in Killock have done so for a long time. Members of my own family worked there for over 40 years, and people that would have worked there would have seen the grotto as kind of an intrinsic part of the area, and people that live here would see it as an intrinsic part. And I suppose to see it lit up again and to see it brought back to life, I think was something that a lot of people would just come and stop and look at it and pull in there just at Killock and have a look and maybe say a prayer for a loved one or something, or even people without any faith even would come and look at it because, it does carry huge significance in the area. When you think of Killock, you think of the quarry, you think of the castle, you think of the grotto as well because it is something that is a major figure in the landscape, and that's the way it worked.
Of course, a lot of issues I know we'll be discussing them here tonight about the environment.
Yeah, look, I suppose Ireland is in a different place, and there's a lot of issues that are coming up now in terms of, carbon credits and trying to, how will I put it, just try and make Ireland more renewable. And some of it is very good, and some of it then people have huge reservations about. And, here in Killock, there's the same issues that have come up, in terms of solar farms, in terms of biodigesters and things like that. And people have rightly expressed reservations about different developments. I think at the end of the day, I've always said that, nobody's against renewables when they're put in the right place. But sometimes you have to question where certain things are put. And I think in terms of the legislative programme, I don't think the legislation has caught up enough with what's happening. I think this whole idea of renewables has kind of just exploded in the last couple of years, and I think the legislative process in terms of putting a framework on it hasn't caught up with that yet.
You ran several meetings, successful meetings.
Yeah, look, there has been several meetings in terms of the solar farm, in terms of the biodigester, and people have expressed their reservations about certain facets of a project. I think everybody that's here would say they have no issue per se with renewables. It's sometimes about the location, and you can't blame people for that. They're absolutely right to express their reservations if a project is going somewhere where they're very, very concerned about. And I think, Eamon, that's why we have a planning process in this country where people can make submissions if they are concerned about it, and I think they're quite right to do so. And hopefully at the end of the day, when a lot of these planning applications are adjudicated on, the right decisions will be made, and we can look back in 20 or 30 years' time and say the right decisions were made.
Absolutely. Well, Sean, we'll tell you in time even already. It's a real pleasure having you on the programme, and every success with your projects.
Thanks very much, Eamon. It's always a pleasure talking to you down your way.
We're back just after these. Indeed, you're very welcome back to Down Your Way. I'm in Killock, a community association, very much a part of the history and the story of Killock. And I have a person here with me, Mary Damerty. How are you doing, Mary?
Hi, Eamon. How are you? Love to be here tonight, and lovely to talk to you.
It's really absolutely fabulous indeed. And of course, you're very much involved for years with the Borland Association in relation to their booklet.
Yes, I was fortunate enough to be able to write an article for all 25 editions of the Borland Dywer Historical Journal, and it was a great privilege and honour and a great opportunity to be able to do that. And Eamon, back in 1999, for the second edition of the journal, I did a little history on Killock Limestone Quarry. And at the time, I was really delighted to have the opportunity to do the article, because my late dad, Pat Darmody, worked in the sugar beet campaigns, and three of his brothers, my uncles, Jack, Ger and Mikey, all worked as drivers at Killock.
Absolutely. And what a place in County Tipperary, marvellous quarry.
It's a beautiful place. The hill itself is just lovely, and all the surroundings around it, especially Gale. It's a beautiful place, Eamon. And if you like, I can give you a little background on the opening of the quarry. Back in the 1940s and 50s, Eamon, there was a huge demand for lime, and this high demand for lime was due to acidity in the soil, and the acidity was known to affect the growth of the sugar beet crop, and lime contained the calcium and the magnesium necessary to correct this acidity. So in 1953, to meet the demands for lime in County Tipperary and the surrounding counties, the Irish Sugar Company purchased land at Killock from the family known as Rhines of the Hill. And on the 7th of May that year, Killock Limestone Quarry opened.
Absolutely. Great story. And indeed, I know, but reading your books over the years, and very much a part of it.
But I'd be great. On Killock, I went to Carlow, the site of the old sugar factory, and they had a lot of records there, and some things about Killock I wouldn't have known. If you wish, Eamon, I have a list of the management team here, the first management team at Killock, and I feel there's probably some of your listeners to this programme will remember some or maybe all of these gentlemen. Con Spain Thurles was the first plant manager. Jim McCann of Cork was the transport manager. John Shinners Newport was quarry manager. Bill Ryan Cloheen production manager. And Joss Connors Thurles was the foreman.
Oh my God. So presumably by now, most of those have passed on.
I would imagine they have, but I would say many of them are remembered, and a lot of family members are still there. Yeah. And in the early days at Killock, Eamon, the work was very hard. There were no canteen facilities, and this is actually a lovely little story about that. Phil Ryan's old house was used as the tea house for the workmen, and a huge pot hung from a crane over an open fire, and it was kept on the boil all day. And Jimmy Burke from Thurles, who was known as the Sniper, I don't know how he got that nickname, but I would love to know. And Jimmy had the job of looking after the pot.
Oh my God.
So all the workmen had the cup of tea.
And wasn't it a nice idea?
Wasn't it lovely? Very simple. And even the work in the quarry in those days was hard, manual labour. The stones were broken by a sledgehammer, and they had to be filled by hand onto a dumper. And the stones had to be around 4 inches in length. And over 30,000 tonnes of stone were needed each year from Killock by the Irish Sugar Company.
Did you have many workmen there at that stage?
I was not able to ascertain the work numbers at the time. Some lists were available, but in Carlow they told me some of records had been destroyed, so a full list of staff was not available. Unfortunately, some of the records have been long since lost.
So the story for you, of course, you just live nearby.
I live nearby, and it's always been an interest to me.
Why wouldn't it,
Yeah, it's a lovely place.
We just go back there for a minute, back to the journal, and what, 25 years was up
25 years, the journal, yes. Yeah. And it was the wonderful work of the late Paddy O'Dwyer.
Absolutely.
In Thurlesbeck.
And
Tom Ryan, Marion Ryan, to mention but a few, and Peter Meskel and Jim Meskel. They were all wonderful. Wonderful at the work they did there to have the journal go for 25 years.
When it came out at Christmas, it was a great history to the community.
Yes, and I think copies a lot went, people sent them abroad to relatives, and they went into the schools as well. And I think the most important thing of all, Eamon, about the journal is its real value will probably be in a number of years to come. This history will be very valuable for people maybe researching in 100 years' time. It's a wonderful record to have.
Mary, it's a real pleasure having you on the programme.
Eamon, thank you so much, and just lovely to talk to you.
As always, thank you very much. Alice Coleman is with me. Alice, how are you doing?
I am great. How are you, Eamon?
Good to invite Tip FM along here because you're the person that kind of nailed down this programme for Tip FM and made sure that your area in Killock was very much part of community in County Tipperary.
Yeah, we've a vibrant community and they're really supportive, and I suppose we've really learned in the last year or so how important our landscape and our home place is. So, you know, it's been good for us to get to know one another and reconnect with our outside world.
Absolutely. How long have you been living in
Well, I'm only a blow-in really, but I have a connection to the area because my grandparents are from Aucknagamon. So I visited Killock as a child, so I feel like I know it well. You know,
Absolutely.
I know all the...
And climbed the hills and all
Climbed
of
the
that.
hills many a time, yeah. I know all the routes, absolutely, yeah.
And indeed, I suppose the stories being told about Killock Hill, you often heard of Killock Hill and the poem and all of that.
Absolutely.
And I know you're going to do as a poem today.
Absolutely, I will, yeah.
Yeah.
I know Killock Hill by Pat Burke,
Yeah, the great one.
so I'd be glad to read it. At times, we read of climbers bold who topped the towering peaks in foreign lands through ice and snow, enough to bring the creeps. No avalanche assisted me, and biting blasts were nil, but linnet sang in hazels as I climbed Killock Hill. And looking westward, all foreign scenes might fail, but that view so charming along the Golden Vale, when fertile fields, rich pastures yield, and many a sparkling rill, and rats and forts old towers and moats in view of Colloch Hill. Before I leave my pen away, I'd say to each and all, if you take to climbing, or if you get enthralled, don't sigh for great Mount Everest, don't mind the Alps at all. But if you stray, some glorious day, you're safe in life and limb. The view is great, 'twill compensate for a climb up Colloch Hill.
Isn't that most beautiful?
It's fantastic.
What do you know about the poet?
Well, I only happened across the poem recently enough, I suppose. And I'm a member of the Borlahan Douala Historical Journal community. So I found it in a journal when we were doing a little bit of research on Colloch and listening to the old stories. So I can't say I know the poet, I just know of him really.
Yeah, very much so. In fact, I probably know the poet.
I think you do, yeah, you mentioned that before. Yeah.
And he had some fantastic poems, the same guy.
Wow.
He really had. He had Sweetheart Mail,
Wow.
you know.
Yeah.
And he had, of course, he had one here on Holy Cross Abbey and several other ones, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
the Maid in the Garden. And, you know, he
Wow.
was just a genuine poet,
Yeah.
you know. And I don't know where it came into him because he grew up in a place called Munamu.
Wow, yeah.
And it's just a small house in Munamu. There was only one house in the town plan, so he called it Munamu House.
Lovely.
So he was entitled to call it Munamu
Absolutely.
House. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is a lovely poem that
It
you're
is,
recording
yeah,
for
it's
us tonight.
fabulous there, yeah.
So, as you say, Colloch is close to you now because
Yeah.
you live there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I have a connection, you know, through the
Absolutely.
ancestors to
Well,
the area.
And that's what it's all about, you know, kind of making sure that it's you anyway, and
Thank
every
you.
success. Thank
you
very
so much, Eamon.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Alice. We're going to take. Indeed, you're very welcome back to the final part of Down Your Way. This week, of course, we're here in Colloch Community Association. James Flanagan is with me. James, how are you doing?
Very well. Thanks very much for having us on, Eamon.
Yeah, what a special occasion. Justin lived a stone's throw away from Colloch.
That's right, yeah. We live across there from the school. But before we start, can I just say that the community living around Colloch were struck by absolute sadness at the loss of Monty Power, a dear friend and neighbour. And our thoughts and prayers are still with Kathleen and with the family and the friends of Monty, and he is a tremendous loss, and we're heartbroken over losing him.
Oh, absolutely. What a loss. We all knew him and knew him so well. You know, the tragic loss on a motorbike.
Absolutely. We were absolutely devastated. I'll never forget it. My mother coming in crying during the dinner on a Sunday, and we didn't know what had happened, but she broke the news, and sure, look, since then, like, sure, the place has changed forever, you know.
Absolutely. But indeed, I suppose Colloch community are still alive in today's world, if you know what I mean. And they're very much a community.
Yeah, we certainly are. We are at the moment. I suppose there's a lot. We're in the news quite a lot at the moment, nationally even, because we're faced with this biogas plant. That's a proposed biogas plant in the quarry in Colloch.
So tell us, what is biogas? What does all that mean?
So the biogas plant that's proposed will be fed with 105,000 tonnes of feedstock every year via local roads. And quite rightly, it has a lot of people worried because this is going to have a huge impact on all our lives, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, a huge impact.
So you had lots of community, Sean Ryan was just talking about it there, lots of meetings and stuff there.
Yeah, so when this first came about, when it first landed on my lap was my father came in. We had received a leaflet in the door. This is over a year ago now from Roadstone. They had given out leaflets to say this is what we had planned to do. Very, very little information on the leaflet, and they invited us to the Horse and Jockey for a community consultation. And I suppose we went to the consultation, the Horse and Jockey, and there was very little answers there. We came away with a lot more questions than answers, to be honest. So we were very worried about the amount of feedstock that's going in and the amount of traffic that's going to be on the road to try and operate this plant. This plant is going to be fed with silage, maize, pot ale, numerous different variations of feedstock. And basically our roads are not capable of feeding it. It's just not suitable. And as well as that, that's the feedstock. That's never mind saying the biomethane gas that's going to be produced as well. That has to be transported via road as well. So I suppose between the feedstock and the gas, and as well as that, the active quarry that's in Killock. There's going to be possibly upwards of 60 HGV. These are huge lorries on very small roads every day, 60 a day, if you can imagine it. So we have a school there as well, and it's just not suitable at all. We're very concerned for the school as well, especially this.
Your research has gone to tell you that no unit for this area.
No, we're very concerned, and the traffic is probably number one concern, but it's not the only concern we have. Killock, as you probably heard from the people who spoke before me, is a very unique place. It's one of only 5 exposed limestone pavements outside of the Burn, and quite interestingly, it's the only limestone pavement. It's the most southern example of these limestone pavements in Ireland outside of the Burn. So being a limestone pavement is very susceptible to pollution because water flows beneath the limestone, and putting a biogas plant on top of limestone like this is just a recipe for disaster. And not to mention, you're going to have an active quarry blasting limestone very close to biomethane. It really just beggars belief.
What does this unit do for the people that live in this community?
For the people who live in the community, very little I can say. Bar give us a lot of stress and a lot of work in trying to get submissions into the county council to stop it. There's very little employment to be got out of it, and to be honest, it's very hard to see any benefit that's worthwhile for the people of Killock.
Absolutely. You know, and as you say, very little. And we're kind of wondering about it as well, silage and all that kind of stuff that farmers use. What are they going to feed their own cattle on?
That's a great question, Eamon. That's another question that farmers need to ask themselves, because this is going to take 105,000 tonnes per year, not just silage but also cattle slurry. So the numbers are 60,000 tonnes of grass silage every year, 20,000 tonnes of cattle slurry, 15,000 tonnes of chicken litter, 5,000 tonnes of maize, and 5,000 tonnes of potail. So we have to, when we are I suppose, informed of biogas, a lot of people would say, oh, biogas is made from leftover slurry. But it's not. In this case, it's made from silage that's actually grown especially to make biogas. It's not just leftover food or leftover waste or spare slurry that farmers have. It's not. It's just simply not. It's made to feed into the biodigester itself.
Absolutely. Okay, I know they had a big protest very recently up in Tumivara, a sellout crowd.
That's right, yeah. Like I said, these biogas plants are being proposed for all over Ireland. Ballymackie is one. There's one being proposed in Bird Hill. There's one in Neenah. There's one after being approved by Tipperary County Council, sadly, in Carrigan-Shore. And a lot of these communities have the same concerns, be it traffic, odour, noise. It's just non-stop concerns.
How can you convince the County Council for going down that road?
Well, to be honest, Eamon, there's numerous scientific studies done on these plants that they're advising against the science behind it. But more so for the residents, we're concerned about explosions. There's been numerous accidents across Europe, numerous people killed in the explosions who worked there. It's not good news for any of us, to be honest.
Briefly, I know we kind of we're here, of course, with the Killock Community Association, and they're going through hardships, for the most part, thinking about what's ahead.
Yeah, what's coming ahead now is where we are with the planning is Roadstone have been asked by Tipperary County Council to submit further information, and that is due by the 6th of December. So once that further information is submitted to Tipperary County Council, they'll have to make a decision on whether to approve it or reject it. It's coming out to County Council, but in the meantime, there's lots of work for the Community Association here in Killock. We're raising money, raising awareness, raising the funds, I suppose, for the completing surveys to try and argue against this proposal.
I'm just wondering about Roadstone itself. They're the guys that make concrete and produce concrete and tarmac. What's their line in going into this business?
It's all about, I suppose, look, we're all trying to look a bit greener. Some people are actually green in what they do, and they farming the land, growing trees, whatever they have to do to actually go green. But these companies like Rosestone, CRH, in our opinion, around Killock, they have to greenwash a lot of their operation. So this is just one way that they can greenwash their operation, is put in a biogas plant. And this is another thing, is that the people who manage CRH, that's the owner of Roadstone, the people who manage CRH, they don't live around Killock. They're not concerned about the effects of this place. No, it has a very little impact on them. Absolutely none at all. It impacts them when they go to do a presentation above in, not even in Dublin, but they're based in America. When they do a presentation in America, they look like great boys and girls putting in a big biogas plant over in Killock. It means nothing to them. It means nothing to them about the impact it's going to have on the Killock residents.
So really, what can you do?
So, like I said, we're raising awareness, raising funds. We're asking anyone who wants to see the pictures of the traffic that we already have to deal with from the quarry on the local roads. Go to our Facebook page or Instagram page. That's the Killock the Killock Biogas Concern Group, and you'll see for yourself the harsh conditions we already have to live with the traffic on the roads. But you have traffic, but also you have the risk to the aquifer that lies beneath Killock. But as well as that, you have a risk of odour. These things are not well managed. Like, if you're living beside one of these biodigesters and there's an odour problem, who do you report to? Who do you talk to? You can't stop these things from happening. There's very little control over this, and we've seen it recently there in the river in Cork. It was all over the news there over the last couple of months. Tens of thousands of fish killed, and no one is held responsible. No one is held responsible. So we're fearful for our way of life. Is anyone going to be held responsible if something goes wrong in the biogas digester that's beside a quarry that's actively exploding limestone? It just doesn't make sense for us, and we're worried.
It's a real pleasure having you on Down Your Way. I'm sorry we have a little more time, but there might be another time that we get back and we hear how the progress is going with you guys here in the community.
More than happy to, Eamon. Thanks very much for having us.
So that's my lot.